I'm Andrew McNamara. I'm an architect for the software supply chain we have at Red Hat. We've been on a journey to modernize it on modern tools for the past couple years. I'm also a SLSA steering committee member. And here with me to talk is Julen.
Hello, good morning. I'm Julen. I'm working for Red Hat as the Ansible CI/CD architect, and on this case, I'm the customer that is using the product that Andrew and the team is building.
So when we went on this journey a couple years ago, we're building a pipeline, but we didn't want to just build any pipeline. We wanted to build it for a specific purpose. And why is that, might you ask? Well, as the diagram that we've produced in SLSA represents, there's many different attacks that a supply chain is vulnerable to, from build, from the source before it to consumption afterwards. And if you build a pipeline without considering those attacks, then you're going to be setting yourself up for great opportunities for malicious individuals. And so we want to build software, but we also want to build secure software. And so at the start, we have this dichotomy between pipeline security and developer experience. So what do developers want? Well, they want to iterate fast. They want to be able to have simple onboarding, just pointing at a repository and start building artifacts out of the gate. They want to have workflows because while cookie cutter is good for starting, it's not always going to be what you want. You want to be able to customize it. And you need to have clear feedback about where you're going, about what is required for actually producing these artifacts and releasing them. And this is at a tension with typical security, which is often checkbox. It's often driven by checkboxes. You have somebody that says, you're onboarding something, here's all the things you must do. And you might not know exactly how to do it, or the instructions might not be clear, or there might be additional things hidden behind a fold, which you didn't realize when you started, so you can be surprised at the end. There's often going to be very few opportunities for customization, which again gets at this tension, and you're going to have late stage feedback. You might not realize that you're not meeting something, you're not meeting one of the requirements as it's intended. You're meeting it as you think it should be intended, but there's a miscommunication there. And that ultimately leads to a lot of developer friction. So how can we achieve what developers want, but do it securely? The project we have to do that is Conflux. So Conflux, it's based on Tekton, and the design philosophy is for it to be secure by default. Tekton with Chains provides SLSA build level 3 out of the gate, the very first build. You have this protection. You're producing the provenance, which is signed with secure keys. There's minimal configuration. We give you the pipeline, which you can start with, and then you can start customizing it. That pipeline that we give you has scanners configured, ready for you to enable out of the box. That's antivirus, malware scanning, static analysis scanning as well. And so you can see the vulnerabilities that affect the software that you're building. And that also gives you the ability to progressively enhance and fix these issues. And as Adam talked about yesterday, using the Hermeto tool, you can prefetch the dependencies and have accurate SBOMs, because you're building these artifacts in network restricted environments, so the only thing available to you is this content that has been prefetched. All of this produces metadata. Because we have all the metadata, we can have policy-driven development. The SLSA Provenance, the SBOM, and all this metadata can be used to have early detection. And any violation in the policy which is required for gating is a learning opportunity for the developers to make some change to fix a critical issue, and it provides that continuous improvement and continuous feedback loop. And the great thing is that how we built the trust model, where the build platform is composed of multiple different Tekton tasks. You don't have one task that does clone, prefetch, build, but you have a clone task, you have a prefetch task, you have a build task. That allows for flexibility. The developers can insert whatever additional processes they want. into the flow, as long as they don't violate the trust that we have to follow data through the system. So I'm going to start from the bottom to briefly describe how we build up trust in the platform. We start with Kubernetes and Tekton to get our secure execution environment. We have namespace isolation. Every team has its own namespace. Chains that generates the provenance is running in its own namespace as well. And so you have it's not possible for the user workloads to access those security or to access the keys that's generating the provenance. And then you also have pod and container isolation within that. I mentioned that we have tasks that are ready out of the box. These are tasks that we have vetted. When you onboard, these are actually pushed to your Git repository, and that is the pipeline that's run. So you can modify the tasks, or you can modify the pipeline that's in your repository in order to customize the development flow. We don't use persistent volume claims by default, and so one task actually produces a digest pinned OCI artifact. If you're not familiar with OCI, it's like a container image, but it just might not be runnable. So it's some blob, some tarball that's uploaded into a container registry. You have that tar, or you have the SHA sum, which is passed from one task to another, so that when you're doing policy violation later, you can ensure that the data that one task produces is exactly the same as the data that another task consumes. I mentioned before we have Tekton chains to generate the provenance attestations using the observer pattern, but it's not just any provenance. It's a very detailed provenance on the task level. It has all the parameters, all the inputs, all the outputs, any remote resolution of the task, so that we can see the specific parameters. We can see that there are specific tasks, whether they're also OCI artifacts or whether they're Git resolvers. Those are immutable digests that we have trusted. And then after the build is done, we have another tool that we've developed, Conforma, that enables policy-driven development. As I mentioned before, it consumes all this various metadata and compares the metadata against specific policy rules that are customized for whatever target you have in order to say, yes, this is good, or no, this is not good, which is great because it allows you to have a different policy for development if you want, or one for stage, or one for production. And so you can do things with these artifacts without actually requiring without meeting the requirements for what is needed to push to production. And we again have, the last thing on here is this release service where a product team or a team might have their own namespace, but they don't have any access to the secrets that are needed to release. They have to use the release service, which is driven by additional CRs, to submit jobs to a managed namespace, which has specific pipelines that are run, which has the Conforma policy check injected in there as a requirement to pass before you can then go further and release. So that's a lot of information. Hopefully, Julen will now be able to give his perspective and show us what it means like in practice.
Yeah, how does it look like for a developer? So getting started with Conflux is super easy. I just need to go there to the Conflux UI and point Conflux to my Git repo and my container file. And that's all. And as soon as I do that, I'm going to get a pull request from Conflux itself on my repo. On this pull request is where I have the build pipeline. So from the very beginning, I'm going to be the owner of the build pipeline. I can customize it. I need to follow the rules that Andre is setting and the organization is setting for me, but I can customize my build for my needs inside the boundaries of those rules that they are imposing me. On that PR that I'm getting, I'm going to get 2 different CI checks from Conflux itself. The first one is running that build pipeline that I have on my repo, and that's where I'm going to get the build. This build almost always works if the container file is building properly on your laptop without any issues, but that's not everything that it's doing. From the very beginning, I'm going to have a lot of built-in security tasks just after the build happens. including malware scanning, CVE scanning with Claire, and multiple different SaaS tools on it. So that's a huge benefit for me as a developer, because I know where I am regarding the CVEs and the security analysis tooling from the very beginning, without me having to maintain any pipeline to make it happen. So after that, once that first CI check is done, I'm going to get the second CI check that Andrew was mentioning, the conforma check, where I can choose what's the policy that I need to follow. In this case, I'm checking the production policy. So as I'm developing, I'm going to get that immediate feedback around, can I release this later to production, or what I need to fix to reach to that point where I can release this to production. And if there is any violation to the policy, I'm going to get warnings on the CI check itself, and then if I go to the Conflux UI, I'm going to have a clear description of that violation and some hints on how I can fix my build so I'm compliant again. So on this case, the last violation that I have after doing some iterations on the PR check is the one around the hermetic builds and prefetching, where Adam went deeper yesterday. So if anyone is curious, you can see the recording of the Adam's solved from yesterday. To solve this one, I just need to customize my build pipeline, adding new parameters on it. The first one is hermetic equals true, to just isolate the build. And the second one is going to be the one to set up Hermeto itself, where I'm going to specify which are my package managers and where are my requirements log files for that package manager. And that's all. With that, the build pipeline will start to prefetch everything for me, and I don't need to do anything else. Conflux will take care of everything starting there. So on the build stage, the build will be isolated. Everything, all my environment will be pointing to those dependencies that Hermeto already fetched for me. And with that, now I have a build, and it's compliant and secured. So the next thing that I want to do as a developer is have an easy way to maintain that security level and that level of compliance. So that's where we have MintMaker. MintMaker is based on Renovate upstream project, and it's a sidecar service on Conflux. And Renovate is going to maintain updated all those requirements files that I have on my repo. Here you have an example with RPMs where we have a CVE on JIT, and on this case, MintMaker event is going to explain me what CVEs are fixing, what's the severity of those CVEs, and so on. So now I have the builds, they are secure, and I can maintain them secure without any intervention from me. That's amazing as a developer. So the next step will be releasing. So for releasing, here again, I have multiple different options. I can build once, and then I can release that build to different targets. I can start on a target that I fully control, right? Let's say the testing environment, where I don't need for anything, nor the organization, nor follow the policy, nor anything else. And that will allow me to iterate until I get the compliance level that I need. However, this will be a very bad idea to go to production. So in that case, we move to those pipelines that Andrew was mentioning, the release pipelines that are managed by the organization. So in that case, I'm going to be the one that is triggering. However, the releasing process will happen on another namespace that I don't have access to. All of them can go on auto-release, and they can have different policies, and you can even have different iteration test scenarios before you go to release them. And that's all.
So in summary, what are the key takeaways for the developers? They're able to start quickly with those pipelines that are proposed to their own repositories. They have full control over those. They can make additional tests. They can add their own unit tests. They can add any fuzzing or additional operations that are needed. They can progressively add security. They don't have to start out of the gate by checking all the boxes, but they, at least when they start, they know which boxes they aren't checking, or which requirements they aren't checking, and they can slowly work towards those. It allows them to plan for compliance. We didn't mention it, but it also allows compliance to change with specific dates in the future. All of this is included in that policy evaluation as well. And then we also have the automated maintenance. We help all the developers to maintain their packages to resolve those CVEs as quickly as possible. And this is made possible by conflicts. First off, by starting on that strong foundation, by building up the trust model so that we know how we can assess our trust in the artifacts that are produced and clearly say, this is an artifact that, yes, it was built, but it does not meet the specific requirements and the specific criteria. We have that fine detailed observer generated attestations. That's what gets us that SLSA build level 3 out of the box. And then we enable that policy driven development, and developers can build once and they can release any number of times to whatever target as long as it passes the policy which gates that. So that's a whole lot of information to talk about conflicts within 20 minutes. But we are fortunate enough to get a couple different talks accepted to Open Source Summit as well as Open SSF Community Day. So one of them was yesterday where Adam talked about Hermeto. If you didn't go to it, you can catch a recording online. We have 2 talks on Wednesday, one where we talk about what you get with this detailed provenance that we generate or that we have generated for us with Tekton Chains, as well as at Open GovCon track, there's more of a holistic perspective of what it means to manage vulnerabilities and manage that lifecycle within conflicts. And then Julen and I will be coming back on Thursday at Open SSF Community Day, where Julen's actually, he's a contributor to conflicts, so he'll wear the contributor shirt instead of me, because he's contributed tasks, and the trust model that we have actually enables community contribution of tasks. So the pipeline team, which manages conflicts, which manages all these trusted tasks, they don't have to do everything. We enable teams and products to do this work themselves, to unblock them. So that's all we have. There's 3 QR codes, one for conflicts. The middle one is for Hermeto. It's slightly different, but it goes to the same place as what Adam was showing. And then Conforma, I didn't get into it too much, but that's the policy engine we have. That's the one on the right.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give them applause. All right, we have time for one question. Yep, back there in the center.
Yes, Brett.
This is a trap. So how do you handle the developer sentiment of you're stifling innovation and allow your developer to use the pipeline but still not have to comply with the policy to begin with? So
Tekton is an orchestration engine. We're giving them a pipeline, we're giving them the ability, the access to run pipelines. So we're not really stifling them because they can stop using all the tasks that we have. It's just that when they do the exploration, they're not going to be able to release the artifacts as Red Hat that they produce. So if they do this investigation, if they do this discovery, then they can come to the talk that we have on Thursday to figure out how to take this exploration and take this custom task they have and make it be a trusted task so that they can actually release it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
All right, thank you very much.